Well, what can you tell us about the status of actually rebuilding the temple? I mean, they've been making preparations for a long time. What's been happening lately?
The biggest thing, you've got Dome of the Rock, there's the Aqsa Mosque, and there's several Muslim shrines here and there. The visible evidence on the top of the Temple Mount is of the temple is very little.
Hmm.
Why is the red heifer such a central symbol in the conversation about the Third Temple? For many, the significance of the red heifer goes beyond ancient traditions and into the realm of Bible prophecy. According to Numbers 19, the red heifer holds a unique role in the Jewish purification process, and its ashes are used to cleanse individuals who have been rendered ceremonially unclean, particularly through contact with death. But why does this specific sacrifice carry such weight, and how is it linked to the much-anticipated Third Temple? The instructions for the red heifer are both detailed and strict. It must be a young cow, entirely red without a single blemish or non-red hair, and one that has never been yoked. The ashes from this rare animal, combined with water, were essential for ritual purification, particularly for the priests who served in the temple. Just think of the intensity of this requirement. How difficult must it be to find a flawless red heifer today? The scarcity of this animal emphasizes its significance. Do you think this rarity might be why its appearance is seen as so crucial in the context of the Third Temple? The Third Temple, in Jewish tradition, is the future restoration of the temple in Jerusalem. For many religious Jews, the rebuilding of this temple is an essential part of messianic expectations. The destruction of the Second Temple in AD 70 left a void in Jewish ritual life, as the daily sacrifices and offerings that took place there were integral to their worship. However, before the temple can be rebuilt and its services reinstated, the priests in the entire area must be ritually purified, and this is where the red heifer becomes essential. Without its ashes, the proper purification process cannot take place. Could this be why the search for a perfect red heifer has become such a priority for those who are looking toward the fulfillment of prophecy? But it's not just the ritual importance of the red heifer that is people talking, it's the prophetic significance tied to it. Many in the Christian community see the red heifer as a signal of the approaching end times. According to some interpretations of the Bible, the rebuilding of the Third Temple is a key event that must occur before the return of Jesus in the Rapture. This belief stems from prophecies, such as those in Daniel 9:27 and Matthew 24:15, which suggests that the temple will play a central role in the events of the tribulation. Could it be that the discovery of a perfect red heifer is more than just an exciting historical moment? Could it actually be a sign that we are moving closer to these prophetic events? The Temple Institute in Jerusalem has taken significant steps toward preparing for the Third Temple, including efforts to breed and find a flawless red heifer. Several potential candidates have been discovered in recent years, but the strict requirements mean that even a few stray non-red hairs could disqualify the animal. The birth of a potential red heifer creates anticipation among both Jews and Christians alike, with many asking, could this be the red heifer that finally fulfills this prophetic requirement? What would the discovery of such an animal mean for the timeline of biblical prophecy? The connection between the red heifer and the future of the Third Temple may seem distant to some, but for those who closely follow Bible prophecy, it is anything but. According to sources like Grace Through Faith, the red heifer is directly tied to the preparations for the Third Temple, and by extension, to the rapture and second coming of Christ. The rebuilding of the temple is seen as a key event in Daniel's 70th week, a period many Christians believe represents the final 7 years before Christ's return. Without the red heifer's ashes, the temple cannot be properly cleansed or functional. Does this make you wonder how close we might be to seeing these events unfold? In Jewish tradition, the Third Temple represents the restoration of worship in Jerusalem, an idea that has been central to messianic expectations for centuries. But why is the Third Temple such a critical element in both Jewish and Christian eschatology? How does the red heifer tie into this monumental structure? The First and Second Temples were central to the Jewish faith. They were places where the priests conducted sacrifices, where God's presence dwelled, and where festivals were celebrated. When the Second Temple was destroyed in AD 70, it marked the end of an era for Jewish ritual life. But many Jews believe that a Third Temple will be built in the future, and that its construction is directly connected to the coming of the Messiah. In this belief system, the restoration of the temple is essential for reinstating temple services, including sacrifices. Do you think the rebuilding of the temple is only a matter of tradition, or could it also hold deep prophetic significance for the times ahead? For Christians, the Third Temple holds a different kind of significance. Many Christians see the rebuilding of the temple as a critical event in the end times. According to prophecies found in Daniel 9:27 and Matthew 24:15, the Antichrist will enter the temple and commit the abomination of desolation, a term that refers to the defilement of the sacred space. This is understood by many Christians as a pivotal moment that will occur during the tribulation, the 7-year period of hardship and judgment described in the book of Revelation. Could the red heifer then be more than just an ancient symbol? Could it also be a key player in bringing about these final events? The ashes of the red heifer are essential for purifying not just people, but also the sacred items within the temple. Without purification, Jewish priests cannot enter the temple to perform their duties, meaning the temple services cannot resume without it. According to Numbers 19, the purification process involves burning a perfect red heifer and mixing its ashes with water, which then purifies anything that has been made ritually unclean. In the context of the Third Temple, finding a flawless red heifer would allow priests to be purified, clearing the way for the construction of the temple and the resumption of sacrifices. Do you think this rare animal could be the catalyst for such profound change? For Christians who follow Bible prophecy, the red heifer and the Third Temple are also intertwined with the rapture and second coming of Christ. Many Christians believe that the construction of the Third Temple is a key marker of the end times. According to 2 Thessalonians 2:4, the Antichrist will declare himself to be God and demand worship, which many interpret to mean that this will happen within the temple in Jerusalem. Could this explain why there is such a focus on the red heifer today? Could its discovery be signaling that we are moving closer to these prophetic events? There are various opinions among scholars about when the rapture will occur in relation to the building of the Third Temple. Some believe the rapture, the event where Christians are taken up to meet Jesus in the air, will happen before the tribulation begins. Others believe it will occur midway through or even after the tribulation. Regardless of the timing, the Third Temple is often seen as a key event that will trigger these end-time events. Grace through faith suggests that the construction of the temple could be imminent once a red heifer that meets the biblical requirements is found. Could this mean that the rapture, too, is closer than we think? The Temple Institute in Jerusalem has been preparing for the construction of the Third Temple for decades. They have created the sacred vessels, the priestly garments, and even the architectural plans for the temple itself. But without the purification provided by the ashes of the red heifer, the priests cannot serve, and the temple cannot be functional. Several red heifers have been identified in recent years, but none have met the strict requirements needed to be used in the purification process. Could we be on the verge of discovering the perfect red heifer that will allow these preparations to become reality? Interestingly, there is a belief within some Jewish traditions that the arrival of the 10th red heifer will signal the coming of the Messiah. According to historical records, 9 red heifers have been sacrificed since the time of Moses, and the 10th will play a crucial role in the final redemption. Do you think this could be a sign that prophetic events are about to unfold? For Christians, the connection between the red heifer and the Third Temple also ties into expectations about the return of Christ. Some believe that the discovery of a flawless red heifer is a necessary step in setting the stage for the tribulation and the second coming of Jesus. This belief is supported by the idea that the Antichrist will desecrate the temple, an event that will occur in the final days. Could the fulfillment of these prophecies be closer than we expect? And could the red heifer be the missing piece in this prophetic puzzle? In recent years, there has been a growing interest in the search for a perfect red heifer, particularly among those who believe that its discovery could pave the way for the construction of the Third Temple. But why is this pursuit so significant today? What are the challenges involved in finding a flawless red heifer, and how does this tie into global prophetic expectations? The Temple Institute in Jerusalem has been at the forefront of the efforts to identify or breed a red heifer that meets the strict requirements laid out in the Torah. According to Numbers 19, the red heifer must be without blemish, meaning it cannot have even a single non-red hair or any physical defects. Additionally, it must have never been yoked, meaning it cannot have been used for work of any kind. These strict requirements make finding a qualifying red heifer incredibly rare. Have you ever wondered why such specific qualifications are needed? Could the rarity of this animal add to its prophetic significance? In recent decades, several candidates for the red heifer have been identified, but most have been disqualified due to minor imperfections. Despite these setbacks, the search continues, and there is a growing belief that a flawless red heifer will soon be found. This has created anticipation, not only among religious Jews, but also within parts of the Christian community. For many Christians, the discovery of a red heifer is seen as a sign that the events described in Revelation and Daniel are drawing closer. Could this be why so many are watching these developments so closely? In 2018, for example, the Temple Institute announced the birth of a red heifer that appeared to meet the biblical qualifications. This news generated excitement across the globe, with many wondering if this could be the long-awaited heifer that would enable the purification process for the Third Temple. However, the heifer is still being monitored to ensure it remains flawless as it matures, as even the slightest blemish or change in color could disqualify it. Do you think this level of scrutiny is justified, given the prophetic weight this animal carries? For Christians who follow Bible prophecy, the red heifer is tied to the events of the end times and the tribulation. The Bible predicts that the Antichrist will desecrate the Third Temple, an event referred to as the abomination of desolation. According to Daniel 9:27 and Matthew 24:15, this event will take place midway through the 7-year tribulation. Many Christians believe that the rapture will occur before or during the early part of the tribulation, taking believers to be with Christ before the final judgment begins. Could the discovery of a red heifer be signaling that these events are about to unfold? But it's not just religious communities that are interested in the red heifer. The discovery of such an animal has global implications, as it would represent the fulfillment of a key prophetic event. The construction of the Third Temple would not only be a monumental achievement for the Jewish people, but also a significant sign for Christians who are awaiting the return of Christ. Some political leaders and analysts have also weighed in on the potential geopolitical impact of rebuilding the temple, given the sensitive nature of Jerusalem and its importance to multiple faiths. Could the discovery of a red heifer and the construction of the Third Temple lead to broader global consequences? The anticipation surrounding the red heifer is not without its challenges. Some question whether such a discovery could trigger political or religious tensions, particularly in the Middle East, where the Temple Mount is a site of deep religious significance for both Jews and Muslims. The Dome of the Rock, a prominent Islamic shrine, currently sits on the site where the temple is believed to have once stood, and any attempt to rebuild the temple could lead to conflict. How might the discovery of a red heifer and the subsequent steps toward rebuilding the temple affect the delicate balance in Jerusalem? Is it possible that these prophetic events could also lead to political unrest? Despite these challenges, the efforts to find or breed a red heifer continue, driven by a deep sense of religious duty and prophetic expectation. For those who believe in the fulfillment of end-times prophecy, the red heifer is a critical piece of the puzzle. According to Jewish tradition, only 9 red heifers have been sacrificed throughout history, and the appearance of a 10th is believed to signal the coming of the Messiah. Christians, too, are watching these developments closely, with many believing that the red heifer could be a sign of the rapture and second coming of Christ. Could we be living in the generation that witnesses these events come to pass? In conclusion, the pursuit of the red heifer is not just about finding a rare animal. It is about preparing for the Third Temple and the fulfillment of prophetic events that many believe will shape the future of the world. Whether you see the red heifer as a symbol of purity, a sign of the Messiah's return, or a key player in the end times, its significance cannot be denied. What do you think the discovery of a perfect red heifer would mean for the world? Could it signal that we are closer than ever to seeing the prophetic timeline unfold? Thanks for watching. If this message resonated, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. For more insights and inspiration, consider subscribing and joining us next time as we explore more profound truths. Take care.